Time for Twins Pod. It's going to be a damn good show. Yeah.
I've never thought of myself as Democrat or Republican. For most of my life, I loosely thought of myself as a libertarian.
Right.
But they're crazy as hell too, and when you get into little niche pockets of that. But
Yeah.
I think
Who you think, which side is more crazy?
I mean,
If you had to pick, who's the craziest? Is it Democrats or Republicans?
I call them Democrats with a P instead of a T. Yeah. No, that's become the Communist Party. It's you shouldn't think about it as a Democrat in a traditional way. Like somebody
They're not liberal anymore.
Somebody like JFK from a few decades ago would be an extremist. Everybody's an extremist today if you had normal thoughts from a couple decades ago.
Right, definitely.
So even in their own party, it's shifted so much that it's just they're more communist than the communists sometimes. Some of the policies are more asinine and bad for the people. What they do in China and Russia and other places that are openly communist, they at least care about the country in some way in the long term. They don't give a shit about the current citizens, perhaps, but they do care that the country exists in 1,000 years.
Yeah,
and over here, they don't care about that at all.
Yeah, they're just worried about power and keeping it. The Democrats.
I didn't understand that until 2020 when I thought to myself, all the political rhetoric we'd hear over our lifetime. I think to myself, you know what, like. The United States is like 4.6% of the world's population, like 27% of the global economy. Like whatever politician, they'll say whatever to get elected.
Right, that's true.
But I never thought they would really fuck things up afterwards. And then I realized later, I'm like, they don't care if their favorite businesses, if their favorite restaurants go out of business. They don't care if their favorite retailers go out of business. They don't care. They don't care if 95% of the economy is destroyed. As long as they control that last 5%.
Yep, right.
They're more concerned with that power mechanism than any other damn thing in their life.
Yeah. I think that's why a lot of people resonate with the things that Donald Trump said. It comes off genuine. Most people wouldn't say some of the things he says out loud. Like on the left, everything is just a lie. Like
they're like chameleons. They just they address whoever they're speaking to. They put on that face. They put up that facade. Just like the whole Kamala Harris thing. When she's around black people, she wants them to see her as being black, so she talks black or she talks about black topics.
Yeah. And then if someone calls her out for it because they're being so disingenuous on the left, he said, nobody really cares about what her race is, but we care because a lot of black people is going to vote for her simply because you say you're black. That's the only reason why we're talking about it. If black people wasn't so easily tricked or duped, we wouldn't care about it. But that's very important to most, I would say, black females. Not as much so much for a black male, but a black female, their identity, their blackness, it's their whole identity. And they're so easily manipulated and tricked.
I think the people that talk about this race thing so much are like the most racist people. Like, I wouldn't give a shit. Like, I'd do business with an alien. I'd do business with a sea creature. Like, if there was out here, there's Lake Mead. But for other coastal people, maybe you live next to an ocean, a lake. If we could go to Lake Mead and somewhere down there's a little volcanic vent that spits up some toxic chemicals and it's too damn hot for us to go there. But occasionally a few diamonds bubble up in the toxic muck. If there was a little fish, if there was a fish that could go over there and collect those diamonds in his mouth and meet you on the shore every Tuesday at 9 a.m. And he liked crackers. He loved saltine crackers. Would you ever be late with his fucking crackers?
No.
He'd bring you a mouthful of diamonds every Tuesday at 9. Are you going to be late with his crackers?
Man, I got a box of saltines waiting for him.
Would you give a shit what color the fish is?
No.
Would you care if he had jagged teeth?
Yeah, that's not my argument. My argument is they being disingenuous and using it for political points. Like Republicans, we don't care that she's black, white. We don't care. It's just you got to understand from my culture, black people, we've always voted Democrat. So it's not important to you, but it's very important to black people. 95% of black people vote for Democrats. So when a person comes out who claims to be black, but her whole entire career, she says she's Indian. All of a sudden she's black. That says something about how genuine a person is. I don't care one way or the other. I do business with anybody. I don't care if you're black, white, liberal, or anything. I'm just trying to explore it out. I'm just trying to explain that they are exploiting people that it's been exploited since the beginning of time.
This country.
I understood your point, and I don't disagree in any way. I'm just elaborating that they're incentivized to perpetuate this racism. People that aren't racist aren't sitting around thinking about racism all day. They're just living their life and doing business and trying to be industrious and accomplish something.
Right. It's bad for business too. playing a race card.
Yeah, Democrats use it for power, though.
Yeah.
What was your first break in entrepreneurship? How did you become a millionaire?
I did things with real estate, but to do that, significantly, I had to go to. I mean, it was only 15 years or something to go do something. I had $1 million just after my 29th birthday, and that was mostly from real estate at the time. So I was managing rental properties when I was in college. I was a high school dropout, so I had to go to community college, and then I got some scholarship money to go to a decent, private university. Later, I went to University of Chicago for graduate school, which was the #1 ranked business program in our country.
MBA?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you was able to earn most of your wealth through real estate.
Yeah, the first parts of that were real estate related, and then even in 08, 09 recession, I was buying a lot of casino stocks because I knew Las Vegas. I grew up out here, I was back and forth here, and I spent a lot of time in Las Vegas over my lifetime, and I seen Las Vegas Sands, which at that time owned the Venetian Palazzo. They restructured some things there, but LVS at that time was like Venetian Palazzo, and then they owned big properties in Macau. Macau was near Hong Kong, for people that don't know. But nobody knew what the hell Macau was at that time. And when I first went to Macau in 2009, this is the gambling epicenter of the world, not Las Vegas, Macau. And the stock, Las Vegas Sands, went from $155 to I started buying it when it was $6, and then it went down to $4. And I doubled that position. Then it went down to $2, and I doubled that position. So I owned it for $350 on average.
You got balls of steel.
It went down to $1.38. You don't feel too smart then. There might have been balls, but you didn't feel too brilliant when you paid $350 and it's $1.38, and you don't feel great at that time. So later I sold it for 42, 44, 46. It went to 89, so I could have held on to it and done better. But that was a first. I made $1 million and change from real estate, but that's when I could really start multiplying some money. They went from $1 million to $4 million.
Right. Yeah.
And then in the last recession, that's why I went back to grad school. I didn't want a job. I have had a job since I was 19. But I went back to grad school, so I wanted to know every little nerdy math thing that what are those Indian kids, Kamala's family, the ones with the nerdy boys with the thick glasses from Kamala's family. What do they know about finance that I don't? What do they know about math?
They're all mathematicians. The people who does well in the stock market, they're mathematicians, statisticians.
You have to understand the math. You got to understand human psychology as well. So how are those crazy humans likely to behave in various circumstances? So those two things help you an awful lot. And, I had to go get mentors for that. You asked the mentor question earlier. I had to go find mentors to help me, through college and with business and. You try to figure things out by yourself. You can be dead before you learn the things you need to learn to do something substantial. So,
how do you feel like a majority of my net worth is not in a bank account? A majority of my net worth is in real estate, stocks, crypto, precious metals. I would say over 90% of my net worth is in assets. I don't keep none of my money in the bank.
I don't want cash.
Yeah, because it's just slow. A lot of people don't understand. I have to tell my wife this. She keeps putting money in her savings account. I say, you're losing money every day and you don't see it.
It's true.
Inflation.
Inflation is a tax on people that don't understand math.
Right.
Inflation is just another tax. And
my wife, dumb at math.
She must be good at some other things too.
Oh yeah, she's good at some things.
I'm sure she
but
is.
Making money, taking money and turning it into money, she's bad at.
No, I say that with respect.
Yeah.
I mean, if you looked at the history of the dollar since the Federal Reserve Bank, that's 1913 or so, and this past 110 years, the dollar has lost 98% of its value.
Yeah.
So if you think of what a millionaire was, 100 years ago versus today,
right?
To have the purchasing power that a millionaire, people say that word like it means something. You buy $1 million is like you could buy a really nice parking spot in Hong Kong. You could buy. I'm buying a parking garage right now for about $1 million. You can't buy a nice house in in a big city.
You can't. Right.
$1 million 100 years ago, if the dollar lost 98% of its purchasing power, which is true, you have to have 50 million today to be what a millionaire, a 1 million in the past. You have to have 50 million today to have that same real freedom or purchasing.
See, that's
power.
why I'm a millionaire. The dollar lost.
If they keep that shit up, you might all
I'm gonna be a billionaire.
Yeah, it could be a trillionaire. A burger might cost $2 billion, but you might be a trillionaire.
Hey, Derek, what do you feel about 401k plans?
don't think about it at all. It's like this is very peasant thinking, like middle class. That
I don't have a phone.
It just if that's what you're thinking about, if that's what a person's thinking about is my IRA, I can contribute $6,500 a year to my IRA, and over 40 years I could have a few $100,000 plus some gains in there. Like,
right?
What are you going to buy with that? You're going to buy 2 cheeseburgers in the future.
Yeah.
So I get it. Like, but these are like political schemes that, in my opinion, are just a distraction for middle class people.
Yep. I think it's like one of the worst investments, because if you try to take that money out, they're going to penalize because you're hurting their investment, the government. Because really, I see an RS, a 401k plan is a retirement plan for the government, because when you go to access these funds, you're in a higher tax bracket. If you go before and take that money out before you retire, they're going to penalize because you're hurting the government's retirement plan. I think they're a horrible investment. A guy told me that's not a real investment or a retirement plan for anybody that's a citizen of the country. He says more a retirement thing for the IRS, for our government. They have more money.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's just a distraction for people that aren't smart enough to understand that.
Right.
It gives them a false comfort of like, oh, I've got a retirement plan. If that's your plan, there's no plan, man. Like,
right.
And to your point from a moment ago, like you have to own real assets. You have to own things that are inflation neutral or assets that benefit from inflation.
Right.
And,
real estate.
And that goes back to real estate as a primary, in my opinion, or infrastructure. Like in 2020, I was buying like a lot of natural gas pipelines, oil and gas infrastructure, and it was so cheap at the time.
Right.
You could buy. There's a company called Energy Transfer. I wouldn't buy it right now. I was paying $4 for it. It went down to $3.75. I was buying it for $4 or $5. Now it's $15, $16. They pay a great dividend, but I wouldn't buy it right now. I'm not endorsing that stock. Just even an example is that if they own 117,000 miles of natural gas pipelines, oil and gas pipelines, if that company if that infrastructure doesn't exist, people die.
Right.
So, like, for them to make money, all you have to believe is, like, will it remain popular to heat your home in the winter? Would it remain popular to heat your home? Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Will like, electricity remain popular? Because you got to burn their natural gas to create electricity in certain regions of the country.
Right.
If you don't burn the gas that goes through their pipeline, there's no electricity.
Right.
So, whatever their political affiliation, like, do you think people would like to have electricity?
Of course.
I suspect so.
Yeah.
So, if they want to have electricity, then I get paid.
Yeah.
If they want to have heat in the winter, I get paid. If you want to cook food, gas or electric for your family, I get paid.
Yeah.
So I like to buy very simple, boring things that are out of favor, and I like things like that: real estate, infrastructure, like
something with utility.
What if the power bill costs 3 times as much? You guys going to be like in the dark with your family? Like,
No.
You're going to like forget about air conditioning?
You got to pay it.
Yeah, you're going to figure out where we're going to get that money.
Yeah.
So I think I like to buy things like that. Some people love. Natural metals, silver, or I like some gold jewelry. But the thing about gold, in my opinion, or silver, I do like it in a doomsday type scenario or in a very bad scenario. It's nice to be able to hand your gold AP to a border agent and go somewhere where your family's not going to be executed on the other side.
Right.
So I think gold is nice for barter or trade in extreme situations.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense to me. But gold as an investment is like a large store of wealth, except for having the thought of in an emergency, this is going to be the natural currency that we can use for trade and get things done.
Right.
But if you're paying for gold versus the real estate or infrastructure, is like, the last 100 years gold basically did what it just follows inflation more or less.
Right.
It just follows the devaluation of the currency more than anything else. And if the gold price goes up high enough, guess what? The gold miners go dig out more gold out of the ground.
Right.
So, and if you owned real estate, if you owned like farmland, whatever, any good quality real estate, like it's hard to produce new farmland.
Right.
It's a lot easier to dig some more
Becomes
gold out of the ground.
very valuable. Yeah.
Look, everybody, inflation is out of control, and this problem is only going to get worse. The value of silver and gold has been steadily rising, while the value of the American dollar has been falling. PurpleBar.com is changing the game, making it easy for all of us to protect our financial futures. The bars are perforated so they can easily break apart and can be conveniently exchanged. Go to PurpleBar.com and use promo code Hodgetwins and you get 5% off gold bars. And you get 10% off silver bars. Yeah.